How you guys doing? So today's an interesting topic because, as you can see, I'm mobile. Every time you see this weird background that I have, guys, that tells you that I'm not home, or if I'm home, I'm in a non-cool
It's in this
background.
bougie
Right.
vacation home with a pool in the background. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't even know where this is at. Let's just make up a country this will be in. Any country you wanted to be in, this is where I'm in right now.
Argentina.
Argentina.
Yep.
Very cold in some parts of that place. But so yeah, guys, we're here with another episode. This episode, we're gonna dive into a lot of different topics. We're going to talk about more into politics, and me and Seth quickly talked about football implications. I don't know if you guys are big football fans, but the football is going to be kind of related to progressive ideals. You'll see what I'm talking about. I'll connect the two. But we're going to dive into that, and we're also going to dive into some some political stories. I mean, some obviously ones we have to talk about because it's the news right now, which is Trump, and then some latest polling changes for a couple of candidates in the Republican Party and one in the Democratic Party. So I want to talk about those characters. And that's kind of our show. I think that's going to take us, and we're going to be pretty impactful. I'm really looking forward to what Steph got to say on a lot of those issues because I'm going to be kind of coming with some ideas and spitballing with them and what he thinks. And yeah, we're going to take it from there. Steph, you want to start with your intro?
I don't really have an intro plan. Yeah, we also you didn't mention big elephant in the room. Was it Maui? Maui's
Yeah.
island.
Maui, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of burned up. I'm not gonna
Yep.
lie. I think 100 casualties at this point. These people that have passed away.
Yeah.
Complete devastation of the island.
Yep.
Obviously attributable to climate change.
Clearly.
But I mean, I'm seeing a lot of Republicans who are like, it's a psyop. The Democrats are just trying to steal your money to raise it for their Democratic donors, and so they can campaign on climate change to manipulate your fears and your care for the environment. And yeah, Republicans are insane. And
They
this
are.
the reason why this is happening essentially is they're more willing to overlook the consequences of environmental disasters or spilling in the ocean, spilling oil, burning fossil fuels, all these problems that have downstream effects, leading to
Yeah.
basically a bipolar form of the environment where we got extreme ends on both sides, extreme heat, extreme cold. We got increased hurricanes and wildfires across the United States. It's not really looking like it's getting better anytime soon. And we're
No.
starting to see consequences, devastation. Like the reason why we want to spend money on green energy, so that
Mhm.
we don't have to spend money repairing buildings and streets and cities that have been devastated by these exact kind of environmental disasters.
Yep.
It doesn't really seem to help anybody to be just pretend and look the other way for short-term economic benefits when we're facing long-term economic catastrophe by not doing anything now. So
I agree with you, man. It's Maui should be like an eye waking experience for a lot of Republicans because the reality is it's like I think the death toll is up to 99 people, and wildfires just because it happened, it's devastating because it's happened in Hawaii. And I don't think they have the infrastructure to handle that because it's on an
yeah,
island. But for California, it's been dealing with this for the last 5-10 years,
true.
every year, and it's like I don't know what Republicans need to understand that climate change is real. Look, I get it. You want to cater to your base, but at least change your policy position and some of your rhetoric to pretend like it doesn't exist when like we've had scientists known about it. When I was in high school, and I'm gonna age myself, I was like I think Al Gore came out with this whole can't think of the actual video name, but it was a whole docu series about how he effectively was saying that climate change is here and we have to do something about it. So we knew
Al
about
Gore was talking about this in 2000.
yeah in 2000. That's when I was in high school.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so this was like we're going on 23 years here, and we've done almost 10% of the recommendations that we knew about 20 years ago. Now you have Miami's going underwater. You have fire, you have wildfires everywhere. That kind of it's unstable. Places are super hot that used to be super cold, and it's like there's no sense of reaction force to handle this problem. And the reality is, we've known about it for 20 years, and we've done nothing about it. And so, it honestly, the real major change came from private sector just making an initiative to do something about it. Like, for example, Elon Musk, whatever you feel about him, and others and other tech companies who've kind of just took the mantle and it's like, look, we're going to do something about this. I mean, obviously, there's some global greed in it too. That's not going to say like they are purists because they're not. But
Yeah, I wouldn't
the
say they took
reality is,
the initiative as much as they're the only ones that actually did anything, essentially because just the government has absolutely done nothing. So it's
yeah,
like the only people or only way you've seen any sort of movement is in the private sector because they're responding to market forces where people, most of the voters and consumers are very aware of this issue and they're willing to, spend different amounts of money on more environmentally friendly products.
yep,
So it's kind of like it's a more profitable thing for you to be green friendly and get electric cars and stuff like that. So they literally are waiting until it's like more popular. I don't know, instead of just acting based on the sciences, it's not
exactly,
very good to be responsive to, catastrophe instead of being proactive. So
yeah. Then that I agree. So yeah, so that's where we're at. I mean, I think that we have to take climate change seriously, like always. And this is a good example of how consequences from inaction of our political figures are kind of right in our face. You know, this is why I understand that people believe that politics go slow, but this is an example of why when politics go slow, it's bad. Because these
yeah,
100 people and these 100 families are never going to be able to recover or their heart loss, things that matter to them, their memories. They're never going to be able to get that back.
hmm
And what we have to do is figure a way as a country to get more effective leadership, to be proactive, be leaders, and see where the future is going and make changes based on the future and not be reactive like our politicians are now. They're very reactive politicians. They only move when they only move when there's catastrophic event or something of that nature, but they don't move proactively like they did. I think that changed literally like the 90s, where they was just making policies just to or based off reactions of people, then versus actually proactive and seeing where the country's going.
yeah. Being proactive would be to lead, before
Yeah,
it's even popular. I'm going to do what I know is right. And I'm going to set an example. The reactive leaders are ones that are only concerned about their election possibilities, and that's the
yeah,
reason why Democrats are very much partially at least responsible for this environmental
hmm,
catastrophe too. It's not like Obama, even 10 years ago. It's not like he had a green record or anything like that. Like it's
yeah,
about gas prices and it's about GDP growth. So they're going to just do things that maximize short-term profits and maximize investment in the United States. And that's
yep,
why, they're focused so much on economic growth, not even wage growth, but they're focused on like overall economic growth because they can point to that. And it's like, see, look at the economy is good, so you should reelect me. Look at all the things I did. They're only concerned for personal interest, just like the people in the private sector. So we need to have more public sector workers, or I wouldn't say workers, representatives
hmm,
to like actually represent the populace, not just special interests, not just the donor class, not just their own personal interests in being elected.
yeah,
Kind of, it's not something that's even fixable because it's inherent to the position that you're going to want to preserve your own power. But we need to make it. We need to. We're at a point where we need to make it unpopular for you to be campaigning on just drilling more oil. Like Biden. Biden did some environmental work, but he's
hmm,
also approved the Willow Project. He's also approved drilling, and he's not really standing up against big oil. He's still letting Saudi Arabia control so much of the United States. I don't know, because of oil interests. Same reasons Trump was so friendly with Saudi Arabia.
Of course.
We're not seeing either side really take initiative and be the leader on this. I mean, not saying there aren't people on the left, but definitely not in leadership.
No, man. Everything's about economic pockets. It's like no one's gonna talk if it's not going to their actual donor base, or they're not going to like fund them personally. They're not taking an issue of it. It's like they only think about three categories: how does this affect my reelection? How's it gonna affect my donors? And how's this gonna affect me personally? And
Yeah,
that's what politics we have elected now. And so it's ineffective government, and you're gonna continue to see that. But I warn every society this happens.
yes.
Like in every fall in every society, the same thing always happens. Politicians get fats to become fat cats. They start to look at for themselves and not the people, and the people eventually rebel. That's just how it goes.
It's inherent to power. It's inherent to having a ruling class that's not representative, but that's you know,
But we tried to prevent that. I mean, the
yeah.
U.S. Constitution definitely tried to prevent that.
And I mean,
Um,
it succeeded to an extent of
yeah.
beating the status quo at the time, but it created a new status quo that's also immovable. It's
Mhm.
also unwilling to. It's built inherent to the system that we are a stagnant country that's not gonna not doesn't make it easy to pass bills because they're afraid of I don't know any sort of rapid change, which is it's fair. But what about the things that we
Yeah.
need to do now? It would made it basically impossible for stuff that we need to do now unless he has 60 votes in the Senate,
Which is almost impossible.
which is always the problem. It always traces back to anti-democratic movements, like
Yeah.
being more willing to protect the minority of the populace instead of the majority opinion, which is
Hmm.
the opposite of how a democracy works. Like we should obviously protect minorities from a majority. That makes sense, of course. We don't want domination, but we can't have a populace where 60% of the voters are more powerful than, or that 40% of the voters are more powerful than 60%. That doesn't make any logical sense at all.
No.
It's not like red state voters are so much more valuable than people that live in the big cities. They're like, oh, we don't want politicians to just campaign in California and New York. It's like, well, don't you want them to campaign to the most amount of people? Like, it's not
Mhm.
like people in Wyoming are so underrepresented that we need to campaign only in Wyoming and ignore all the deeply red and deeply blue states that don't have a chance. That's the problem with the Electoral College is they always talk about like, oh, these rural states have no representation if we don't have for the Electoral College. But right
Yeah.
now, the big states with the most populations have no representation, essentially equivalent to, especially California. California is 40 million people, and they have I don't remember maybe I don't remember their exact representatives amounts or whatever, but they also have two senators, and so does Wyoming, and they have 80 times as many people as Wyoming or whatever. Like it makes absolutely no sense. It's disproportionate amounts of power in the most powerful branch of government, which is the Senate, essentially.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think that the senator thing. I think you're right. I like the two senators idea, but I agree with you. I think two senators for a place like Wyoming, it's not really necessary because it's like you really don't represent like
No,
what country like represent like. I mean, they should have a senator. I think every state should have at least one senator.
sure.
But I think that there should be
We
a
could just have
number.
a unicameral legislature, in my opinion. I don't really see why we need to have a bicameral legislature.
Well, I do like the bicameral part. I do like one house being there longer than the House of Representatives, just because government. Just because I don't want quick changes in government. Like quick changes is usually it's not a good thing too. I mean, slow change is bad,
It
but also
depends. It
good change,
depends.
fast change is also bad.
It depends on how dramatic the change is. Quick change is fine as long as it's not like
Because the
a
reason why I don't like
radical
quick change,
transformation that doesn't have any sort of plan in place or anything like that. Like we don't want bad legislation. We don't want bad planning. But
exactly.
yeah, I don't think that's necessarily more likely by just having a more representative, more democratic legislature. I
No,
think
I
they
think
should.
that I
Okay.
agree with you. I don't disagree with you. I think it's just the timing of the senator should not be the same.
The
The
timing?
senator should be there longer, in my opinion, huh?
You said the timing of the senators? What?
Yeah, senator should be there a lot. You were saying that should be a unified one
Yeah.
representative government, but what I was saying that I'd like the idea of senators being there longer, just because it keeps they're the ones that slow it down. That's what representatives are the one
What do you
that
mean by
fast.
longer?
6 years. That's what they are now.
Oh,
6
oh,
years.
I see what you mean. You mean
Yeah, I
instead of
don't want them to all go down to like
2 year
2 years.
terms? Yeah, I don't think a 2 year terms are that good
No,
because
I
it
think
just
that's
doesn't give any sort of time for them to actually govern without immediately running on re-election, which I think is bad.
exactly.
I think if we had one unicameral legislature and there was 4 year terms or something like that, I think that we would have a much more representative government as long as the states had proportionate representatives to their population. Like we would have a much more representative government.
So we'll be doing something like what the British does.
I mean, it would be
That's what.
more representative. It would be more democratic.
Yeah,
It would probably be more democratic in the political party sense. Like the Electoral College literally is just like training wheels for the Republican Party, essentially.
so the electoral college. So I don't. Okay, so I do like the electoral college to a certain degree. That does allow small countries. I'm sorry, small countries, small states to have somewhat of a voice. What I don't like
They should
is
have a voice proportionate to their population, right?
that's what the electoral college does. Like they only get certain
No, it
many.
gives them disproportionate.
No, they have like a state like Wyoming don't have that many electoral votes.
They still have a disproportionate amount compared to California.
Let me see.
Disproportionate to their for their population size.
Let me see what it is. Because
And
I
it's
like.
also not it's also winner takes all, which I think is absurd.
I
Like
think that's based on state though.
yeah, that's true. But for the
There's
most
some
part
states
it's winner
that do
takes
that.
all. If it's 51% of California votes for Democrats and 49% votes for Republican, not that would ever happen.
Yeah,
That
for
when
example.
California gets all the electoral college votes, that gives them a disproportionate amount of I don't know.
Yeah,
I
but see,
don't think it makes any sense.
Wyoming only has three, and
Yeah,
someone like California has 54.
that's
So,
disproportionate.
huh?
It's
So they have to.
disproportionate.
There's got to be a lot of them just to make a impacted vote. There's got to be a lot of rural states voting in order to stop.
Oh, it's not possible to change the electoral college without like a constitutional amendment, which would be very unlikely. So this is kind of just talking based on something that will never happen. It, I think it makes absolute sense that we should at least reform the electoral college so it's more proportionate winning results.
Yeah, I think migration has changed us a little bit more. So this is
You
like
said
obviously,
migration.
yeah, migration.
Okay.
Like more people move. I mean, not as many people live in Michigan anymore as there were 10 years ago. Not, and I'm pretty sure Wyoming got smaller than three.
Michigan's still like a top 10 state. It's like 10
No,
million.
but I'm saying it's not as many people. No, it's a big state. Well,
I don't think
let
it's
me give you
less
an
people.
example. Hmm.
I don't think it's less people. Michigan did lose some growth, some population growth in like the early 2000s, but they kind of came back around, especially with Detroit. It's kind of coming back around too.
Okay, well, let's not use Michigan then. Let's use one that we definitely know is losing population.
Probably
Let's
like
see.
Missouri or something.
Missouri, Wyoming, those people. The population varies, but those people don't have major electoral college vote. The
But it's
problem
still
is
disproportionate amount of power for the
they
population.
do. The
There's
problem,
3 electoral college votes for 500 million people, or 500,000 people. Then there's 50 for 40 million people. That doesn't really add up.
well, I see what you're saying there, right? How the numbers don't really reflect the population growth.
It would
That
be
I
a
agree.
hundred, and if it was the same proportion, it would be like 120 representative or 120 electoral votes in California if they had the same power as Wyoming. If my math
Yeah,
tracks, which is clearly
no, I
proportional
understand.
power.
No, I agree with you. I think that you are right in that respect. But I don't think they should tweak the electoral college. I think they should tweak more so maybe the senators there. Like, if they want,
I'd say
maybe you should have a senator per electoral college vote. For
I'm
every
fine with that as long as we also make the electoral college vote more proportionate.
yeah,
Because,
like
it's just it might not be likely, but it's not. It doesn't. It's
it's
illogical.
it's it's more fair than giving some a state like Wyoming two senators
Yeah.
to make two votes when reality is for a fact that it's for a fact that they don't really represent all the people that was there. So when I really look at when I really look at what we should be doing, I think the Senate should be removed. I like the way the House is set up. I
Yeah.
don't like the way the Senate is set up because Senate is not really, like you said, representative of the country. There's no reason why a state like Wyoming has two votes. I'm not picking on Wyoming if anyone's from Wyoming,
I
but
like Wyoming.
they only have three electoral college.
They
So
have
there's no
like
reason why.
towns of like 20,000 people, and that's why
Yeah,
I don't know. It just doesn't make sense that they get that amount of power.
yeah.
You
And
know,
Vladimir Seven, that's chiming in right now. Electoral college is a part of the founding of this country. We're not saying that. What
I think there's a lot of things that are bad though that are part of the founding of the country.
Well, I think I'm not gonna say they were bad. I think they were necessary at the time it was in place.
Yeah,
Now we have a different. I mean, obviously, like the thing you chimed in, there, slavery was a thing back then, and we've
the electoral
evolved.
college was intended to when they talk about the rural states, what they're really talking about is the plantation states, the slave states. It was to give
Yeah.
slave owners a
Hmm.
disproportionate amount of power to the non-slave states. That
Yep.
was the design. We also had the
Mhm.
3/5 compromise. We have this is all different ways institutionalized racism that was built into intentionally give the white property owning man, a disproportionate amount of power. And we're
Yeah.
still preserving those systems today because it's like, oh, we don't want to make Republicans mad by sounding too radical. You're preserving a system that's good, like leading to our own demise. That's
Yeah, and I agree, and that's why the founding fathers, in their infinite wisdom, said, "Hey, you can change this government when it doesn't serve the people." You know, and it's very true. We should always be looking at ways to tweak, this idea of America. Um, and I like Vladimir Seven saying, there's no reason why LA and New York should be determined life of Manhattanans. I agree that the Electoral College should be in place because it does represent the country. I disagree that a senator from Wyoming, if you have two senators, that doesn't make sense really, because how does they get? Why do they have two senators? In reality, they don't have 40 million people like California, or 27 million people like Florida, or this amount of people in New York. That's almost 80 million people.
Yeah,
Like,
I disagree fully
versus,
with Vladimir
Mhm.
Seven's points about how New York City and LA shouldn't determine the life of Montanans. I mean, that's why we have state governments. You should be able to decide
Yeah.
your life, and we should have government not decide the life of people in general. But the
Mhm.
idea that the 30, 40 million people in California plus the 30, 25 million people in New York City should not have a disproportionate amount of power compared to the 1 million people in Montana, that's just blatantly false. We should obviously represent the 70 million people instead of the 1 million people. They should have more power. It's just
Yeah,
more people. Every one person should be worth one vote. Should be worth one say in the government. It doesn't
yeah, and
make
I think that
why we're giving states more power instead of the people. People should have
yeah,
one versus one versus one. Every person should have the same amount of power. That's a democracy.
yeah, and I agree with that. I think that um, as well, we're representative government when we try to balance that republic idea,
Yeah,
and I think that yeah, and Vladimir Seven, you're right. Let me chime in on this. If you got rid of the electoral college, Democrat Party would have won um, due to popular vote. I agree. I like I said, the electoral college issue. Um,
I think that's
I
a
think
good thing, by the way.
no,
I
of
mean,
course.
in
we
the
but
Republicans,
we
if they
want
wanted to actually win, if that was the case, then they would have to change their policies to represent
right.
more people, because otherwise they would lose every single election since 2000. But since we're giving them a leg up, since we're such a disproportionate, there's like 12 million more registered Democrats than Republicans. Like
No,
we are the dominant party, and they don't have to compete with us by changing their policy points because they already have a leg up to be giving them constantly balanced. We want a constantly balanced system, which is just giving a leg up to the person who's or the party that's unpopular and has bad positions. So that's what makes sense to me.
well, here's the thing. I think that the idea of balance is a good thing. I mean, even me as being a progressive, I don't ever think that us progressives should get everything we want because the reality is there needs to be check and balances in government.
I agree.
Um, like, if I propose a plan that this is my wish list, this is what I want. It's up to the Republicans to be like, well, we want this on part of your wish list because you have the power, but we also have some say for people. Because yeah, we can say that Democrats won, but a 10 to 12 million dollar, excuse me, 12 people split difference, not that much in a country of 300 million people.
Yeah.
So we have to find that balance. I think electoral college is good. I know a lot of, and I'm kind of going away from progressives on this issue. I know a lot of us, what progressives are like, let's burn it up because we don't win a lot of, because it's not really in our favor and it doesn't really make sense to us. But I think that the idea of having representative government for each state is a good idea. I do think that the idea of the Senate is a little ridiculous because that's not really representative government when you think about the idea of what they were trying to accomplish there. So I don't know how you factor that in. If it's for every 10 representatives, you get a senator. I don't know how you do that. You have to
Yeah.
make it bigger. But I like that they're removing and changing the Senate because the Senate just doesn't make any sense. It's not representative at all. Like, there's no reason why you have two senators from a state that clearly does not need two senators.
Yeah. I mean, we're never going to remove the Electoral College. We're never going to remove the Senate, but we need to reform both of them to make them more democratic. That's something
Yes,
that we
I
could
agree.
actually do that would probably be popular and would be clearly in the right. And I do think both the Electoral College and the Senate need to be reformed dramatically, just so they represent, you know, all man is created equal. One
Yeah.
vote. This is one vote. One vote, you get the same amount of power as another person. You're not given more power because you're born in a state that's less populated. That just doesn't make sense to me at all.
Mhm.
I don't think the Electoral College in its founding makes any sense, but obviously we're not going to do a constitutional amendment anytime soon to change that. So
Yeah.
it's going to exist, but we need to have more democracy in this country.
Yeah, Vladimir Seven, you're right. Those a lot of those people feel disenfranchised, got rid of the
They feel
electoral college.
disenfranchised now and they have a disproportionate amount of power. They already think that everything is controlled by the liberal elite, even though the institutions are blatantly in favor of Republicans, even though they're a vast minority of the populace. So
No,
I don't really care about their personal feelings because they just have the victim complex anyways, and they think the world is out to get conservatives, but it's really the world is protecting conservatives and the right to be conservative and wrong, and that's just the way it is. And I don't think that we need to cater to how they're going to react to it because they react negatively to every positive thing we've ever done. So it's kind of like,
look, I would say, Seth, I would agree with. that they do cry a lot. But in terms of you know, people in Tennessee and Montana, Idaho, if they would feel disenfranchised, I hope they wouldn't. I mean, honestly, I mean, we're the goal is very progressive is to make us representative. You know, make us represented the country and government, and so this is all in the pursuit of that. So
They
I
might
hope
feel
they would.
disenfranchised, but once they get the Medicare for all and they get access to education and better paying jobs, like you can cry about it all you want. You're gonna have a better life. So
Yeah, I
sorry
mean,
that
like
we're actually passing things in the government that are gonna benefit you in the working class. You can complain the Democrats all you want, but it's not the Democrats that are ruining your life.
yeah, I mean, and like I said, I don't. Like I said, I like representative government. Like I said, to put a cap on this, I like the separation because look, not all Democrats I like either, especially the
Oh,
moderates, because a lot of them are very economic friendly, and they're really Republican light. And
yeah,
so I don't know if you want those kind of Democrats coming through either. So there are some conservatives, some real hardliners who are like, nah, this doesn't make sense.
yeah,
That kind of agree with progressives on some issues, even though they're conservative. But I
yeah,
do. So, like I said, the balance is it needs to be there from both sides. But I would love for progressives to win and be more fair. I want the elections to be more fair and more representative of the people than it
yeah.
is of the elites. Um, that's a great topic to start off. And great time in Vladimir
Yeah,
Seven.
I love how we never know what we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, that was that was pretty deep to start off. Um,
What were we gonna talk about again?
okay,
Oh,
so
the voting. Yeah, 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 voting.
yeah, so I think we're gonna go into. I'm gonna quickly dive to a great shows your liberal show and more. Um, we're gonna dive to really quickly into Trump. I mean, he got indicted again for the fourth time. I really don't want to talk about it because it's just like he gets indicted like
Every other
it's
week now.
every other week now. It's like when it gets closer to the actual trials, if they even happen before the election, I'll give you guys more of a legal
Yeah, once more
perspective of
stuff
it.
actually unravels, like it's
Yeah, as it unravels, I'll try to explain some of the nuances of the trials and how hard it is to them to convict, and try to break down the evidence for you guys as it comes closer to it. Right now, um, I really don't want to go there because it's just not really
it
positive.
is, however, he is going to be arrested and have a mugshot, and they're going to have a live televised trial, and it's all under
In
this
Georgia, yeah, in Georgia again.
Georgia, which is a good
Mhm.
thing because it's a state. The state is the one that's prosecuting him essentially. It's not the federal government, and he can't pardon himself if you were to get elected for a statewide crime, right?
I haven't seen the indictment of how they're trying to prove this RICO case. And RICO is a fancy word for racketeering. Let me make
They
sure.
don't really have to prove it. He literally just says it on camera and into a mic, right? We have a recording of him saying, "Yeah, you know what I really need? Oh, damn, what's the
Mhm.
number? 11,780 votes, because that's one more than that's just one more than we need to win the election or whatever." Like he's literally
Exactly.
just talking to the Secretary of State, saying, "You know how many votes I need? Let's see if you can find me 11,000 something votes." It's like, well,
Yeah.
what do you think he meant by that? You think he was just saying, "Well, boy, you know, it'd be nice." No, he's clearly nudging the Secretary of State. Yo, I need you to find me these votes because
It depends. I can tell you a different story. I can tell you that he was saying I need to find 11,000 votes, so we need to possibly recount it just to make sure that we have that 11,000 votes. Lawyers do a lot of back talking. That's what we do. It's like from one perspective, you see it from one way. I can twist it to make it seem another way. That's just the law. Because nothing. If you ever read your laws, and I said if you read a lot of them, but if you see a lot of them are written open ended, and so that's why I rather wait to see what they're gonna eventually charge him with, because yeah, they're doing all these charges now on TV that you guys are seeing. A lot of those charges are gonna go away by the time trials start. Honestly, they're gonna remove a lot of them because a lot of things. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't realize the prosecution office is also a political office. So Trump is right about that in a sense that it's a witch hunt. That part he's lying about. It's not a witch hunt. He actually did commit a lot of these crimes, but the fact that you can use the prosecutor office as a way of gaining media attention is very true. So a lot of times, a lot of these prosecutors, what they do is, yes, Vladimir Seven, I'm a lawyer, and so a lot of these prosecutors, what they do is, they use the office to kind of like, hey, we charge this guy with 50 crimes, and everyone's like, oh my god, 50 crimes, it's so amazing. And then when it comes down to trial, half those charges are gone because they can't prove them in court.
Yeah.
They can charge you whatever they want, but the reality is when it goes time to actually try it, they know which ones they can actually stick and which ones don't. So that sense, I would say it's more of a media thing. So I'd rather wait till he gets closer to trial to see what he actually is charged with at trial to actually make a determination of if it's a serious indictment or if it's just political. The Georgia one, I'm a little worried about because I'm trying to see how they're going to connect their state laws and the federal laws together because there is a supremacy clause. And reality is, if those state laws conflict with federal laws, like half those charges are going to get dropped out. And I think that's what Mark Meadows. I think I saw a recent report, actually an hour ago, where he was looking to get it removed into federal court and get the claim dismissed. And I think that's probably what's happening. Is maybe a lot of those charges are not really going to stick because they conflict with federal election laws. So we shall see, and it's going to be an interesting couple of months. Like I said, it's putting law and politics all together, and people are really going to see how the legal system works, and it's a very dicey system.
Yeah, it's probably going to be like the most watched television thing ever.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
did you ever see that one, like, Cuba Gooding Jr. version of the O.J. Simpson trials where they did like a
Yes, on
TV
Netflix,
show?
right?
Oh, yeah, it was really good, by the way. But
That was
I
really
can
good.
imagine
Yeah. Hmm.
10 years, you're going to see a Trump version of that trial, and it's going to be like every Netflix show is going to be some sort of Trump shit. Like, people are going to be
Yeah.
obsessing over Trump for like 20 years.
Yeah, and like I said, Trump has good lawyers. I mean, the prosecutor office have good lawyers too. I mean, they both. I
Yeah,
mean, both
Jack
sides
Smith
of
is
the.
the new Anthony Fauci, right?
Yeah, they're
Everybody's
all. Yeah, you're gonna have
probably
some
both
big, you have
sides.
some big juggernauts going at it. So I'm excited about it as a lawyer to see these really good attorneys going at it. But as I know, as people, they're not looking at it for the legal practices. They're looking at it for like, is he going to go down? And
Yeah,
the reality is like it's like anything in the law. Maybe it's a gray area.
maybe.
It's like because I don't like the media. I'm watching these news stations like Fox and CNN. CNN's like, oh my God, it's 50 charges and he's going to get caught for something. And I'm
I
like,
think he will.
yeah, you're speaking a little bit too fast. The law is really gray and nothing's ever concrete when it
Yeah,
comes to the law. And then with the Fox is like, it's a witch hunt. None of these charges are true. It's like, stop it. They're not just going to bring up charges without having facts because
yeah,
actually, a lot of people don't know lawyers can't do that. Like, we literally can't do that. Like, if we represent to the court things that are not based on law or fact, we can actually be disbarred. We can actually be sanctioned. So when I hear Fox says, "Oh no, none of this stuff is true," it's like, no, that's bullshit because we
yeah,
can't do that technically. And but at the same time, the liberals, the CNN, they're saying like, oh well, he's going down with all these charges. Like, no, that's not true too, because yeah, maybe they have the facts in the law, but maybe their interpretation of the facts in the law is not accurate, and they'll get dismissed. So it's going to be very interesting. Like I said, as time comes closer and closer and closer, we'll dive into some of the charges. I'll even read the indictments to you as they come near, but that's not something we will be diving into now.
How do you think it is going to affect the Republican primary? However, that's a good lead into what we were going to talk about, anyways.
Yeah, it's a great lead in. The it's going to help him in the positive because like the last polling that came out of him, he's up 41 points. Like so right now, the latest polls has him at 57%, DeSantis at 16, and Ramaswamy at 9.
There you go. You said it right that time.
Well, we practiced a lot before we
Yeah, we
started.
practiced.
Yeah, so uh and that was the latest poll. Oh, I'm sorry, let me put some honorable mentions in there. Pence got 7, Haley got 3, Scott got 3, Christie got 3, Hutchinson got 1, Burgum is 1, Soares is 1, and some guy named Hurd is 0. I don't know who that is.
Who? What was the last one?
His name is Hurd.
Oh, Will Hurd. Yeah. He's like
Yeah,
a CIA dude. He's a representative from Texas.
yeah, not gonna
Yeah,
stand
he doesn't have a chance. There's no real path. The last like few names you said, like I don't even think they're gonna make it to the debate.
No. What's the
Yeah,
cutoff for the Republican debates? Like what, 4%, something like that?
I am not sure.
Oh, yeah, I don't
I
know.
think it. I don't think it's necessarily you have to pull at a certain percentage. I think it has to do with a lot like donors and stuff. Did you see? Sorry, I dropped something. Did you see? I sent it to you. Doug
Mhm.
Burgum did it, and then who's that? Suarez, the mayor of Miami, who's also
Yeah,
running. They were
yeah,
doing this thing where they like we're going to give you you get a $20 gift card if you donate $1 to our campaign, stuff like that, which is
oh,
weird. It's makes me feel like kind of like a bribe because you're just trying to get individual donors so you can make the debate stage. And I don't know. That seems kind of weird to me, but so it
right.
seems
So,
like the individual donors has a lot to do with making it to the debate.
so it says here that you have to be 1% in multiple eligible polls and gather at least 40,000 donors and
Okay.
sign up for the community to support the ultimate GOP nominee. I think none of them have a problem with that. And the polling shows that even Soros is going to make the debate. Um,
Okay, I was wrong about they're gonna make the debate, but is Trump gonna
I,
show up?
no, I take it back. Soros is not going to make the debate because the average has him at 0.3
That's
and
true.
hers at
He
point
did. He's
0.1.
the most recent announcee, and he's just a mayor.
Yeah. So Christie's at 2.4. Scott is at 2.7. They'll make it. Haley's at 3.5. Pence is at 5.3. Wamaswamy 6.4. DeSantis 14.8. Man, he's doing terrible. And 54.3 is Trump. So honestly, if I'm Trump, I wouldn't even go to none of these debates. This would be BS for him.
I don't think he's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to debate. I mean, it's a waste of time for him to debate. The people that's probably going to show up is DeSantis, Wamaswamy, Pence, Haley, and Scott. And honestly, if that's the group, I think Wamaswamy will win because I actually watched him for like 5 minutes yesterday because after I heard that he went up in the polls a little bit, I was like, all right, let me listen to this guy. And so I listened to him. He's actually very charismatic. He's like kind of a Barack Obama-ish figure for them.
I would say, like I said, I'd say Pete
Well, for them.
Buttigieg.
Well, for them.
Yeah, no, no,
But
of course. Pete
yeah,
Buttigieg,
Pete Buttigieg.
maybe kind of like, he's young, he's somewhat charismatic. I would not put anybody on the level of Obama, but
No, no, no. Okay, yeah, bad example. Pete Buttigieg.
yeah,
He's not correct. He's not charismatic as Obama, and he cannot speak as well as Obama. That I'm not saying. I was just saying that he was like trying to do the Obama thing, like Pete Buttigieg. So he was trying to go that lane, and I could see he's going that lane. Um,
he says some crazy shit too, though. Like
yeah. So
he wants to raise the voting age to 25. He wants to invade Mexico. I can't even think of all the crazy shit off the top of my head, but
no,
yeah,
I heard him. No, I heard him speak, and because like I said, he's been going up in the polls, so I was like, let me hear him speak. And
yeah,
he said this one thing very charismatic to this one lady, this one student, and I was like, oh, that's pretty charismatic, you know.
yeah.
And then the next thing's like, I want to abolish the Department of Education. I was like, what?
I'm pretty sure he's funded by like Peter Thiel. They're like the libertarians in Silicon Valley who want to, the tech bros who want to like, I don't know, technocratically abolish, any form of federal government, but they want to like just control everything with private enterprise, like libertarian, but like also fascist. I don't know how to
Yeah.
describe it better than that.
When I heard him say that, the next thing I was like, oh, this guy's never going to become president.
No, of course
You
not.
with the posh federal agencies, and I was like, okay, that's just a bad sign
Yeah.
from start. So I don't think he had a chance.
I think he is probably pulling well with like young voters who don't like establishment politicians, which is most of the people running. And
Yeah,
then there's this young guy who's intelligent. I'll say intelligent instead of smart because certainly
yeah, he is a judge. I'm not gonna say
he's an
he's not.
intelligent person, but he
Yeah,
has dumbass opinions that aren't coherent or consistent or logical in any way. But I can see why he could appeal to. Yeah, he's like a culture warrior too. That's
yeah. I see him being. He's gonna he'll get decimated in Iowa.
yeah.
So he won't make it past Iowa. His biggest shot is New Hampshire, and Christie's already winning in New Hampshire. Um, Whoever wins those first two are going to be considered the Trump guys going forward. Um,
I think Ramaswamy is gonna. He's making his name for the Republican Party in the future, though. Like I think
yeah,
he'll
for
run
next
for
year. Yeah,
something.
the next. But
I mean,
that's what DeSantis should have done.
yeah,
That's what DeSantis felt like. He did terrible. Like you knew nobody was going to win the nomination over Trump. This was supposed to be the election where you get your name out there.
there was a period of time where we legitimately thought DeSantis would win over Trump, but then by the time he announced, he had already started to fizzle, which was really stupid. You
Yeah,
don't
doing
announce when you're starting to fizzle out.
the problem is his policies are starting to take effect in Florida, and people are starting to feel them, and that's what's killing him right now. It's like people don't have jobs. We have GOP people going against him here in Florida. They're like, look, man, we're losing all our workers here. We don't have any workers because you passed this freaking legislation bill targeting them. So now people are going to Arizona. They're leaving Florida, the workers at least. And the problem is you're bringing all these rich people in here, causing our kind of economic. We have an economic balance right now in Florida. All these rich people are moving in. All the workers are moving out, and so the prices are really high, and there's no work for them to do. So then now you're dealing with inflation, with no workers, with all these rich people who have money with nothing to do with it,
Yeah,
and
there's
so he's
nothing.
causing an economic mess.
They can't. The rich people can't even invest their money in companies because they're like, not. It's like a guaranteed loss because the companies aren't doing good. So they have all the money in the area, but they're also not going to want to invest the money because it's already in a backslide.
Yeah,
So
I represent a lot of small businesses, and they're getting hurt right now in Florida, and the economy is doing well throughout the rest of the country. And but
yeah,
in Florida, particularly, they're doing terrible. They're like, we don't can't find workers. No one wants to work. And it's like, no, it's not that no one wants to work. The people you used to be able to hire,
nobody wants to be exploited.
yeah, no, they cannot function in this government. Florida is one of the most expensive states now. It's like 24 apartments now in Florida. It's like $1,800 a month,
Yeah,
and it's like, how can they afford it?
when
And
they get
like,
paid $10 an hour.
yeah, Florida pays the lowest amount in all 50 states, including Wyoming. And since we dug on Wyoming this episode, so we're like one of the worst paying states, and you have all these rich people moving here, but there's no working class.
Yeah,
So now you have the middle class like me, and like we're just like, well, we're not going out there to work those jobs.
yeah,
We'll move before we work those jobs. Like you had no business attacking those people in the first place, and because those people wasn't bothering anybody, they were working. They were working. They were contributing to the state, and you wanted to play this. I want to be president, so I'm going to attack immigrants, Mexicans, all these immigrants in the state, and now we're stuck because you wanted to attack people that should have been have immigration papers a long time ago. The only reason why immigration reform hasn't passed is because of Republicans and their base. But the reality is, it's like, but every politician who's a decent politician knows that, hey, I'll be strong on it, but I'm not enforcing any crazy policies against immigrants because that's the backbone of our economy. He did. He went after one of the biggest workers in, he went after the biggest companies in the state of Florida, and he literally lost his 2,000 jobs
Yeah.
by Disney. And it's like, now he has the audacity to go into like TV and be like, oh, well, I'm not going to fight Disney anymore. It's like, you already did the damage. Like, who picks on Disney in Florida? Like, they're the biggest company that we have. So we lost 2,000 jobs. We're losing truckers. We're losing lower case workers. We're losing farmers. We're losing construction workers. We're losing all these people in a state that's dependent on tourism. And it's like, why are we? Our economy is solely based on tourism. This is why in Florida we don't pay state taxes. And so when you're taking away the workers and the people who come here and people don't want to come visit our state because they're like, when you guys are crazy state, you're banning, you know, books on racism.
Yeah.
It's like, why was a black person when I come visit Florida? Why is a white person like, you're attacking Disney, you're attacking black people, you attack all these different groups and all these different minority groups. You literally caused our economy to go to crap by yourself. And they're like, oh yeah, I'll be a good president. And everyone sees your track record. It's like, no, you'll be a terrible president. You're like,
And that the things that you're doing, actually, him running for president might be good for the state of Florida because he'll be doing less governing, and then maybe he'll
yeah,
stay out of people's business. So then, like,
yeah. It's like we want him out. We're
yeah,
like, look,
the
we
liberals are
want
leaving in droves,
yeah,
myself
like
included.
it's like
Like,
here, we don't want him. Like, take the country, take him. It's like because he's causing an economic nightmare here,
yeah,
and it's like, and none of us. There's nothing. And he wasn't this bad. Like I didn't like DeSantis ever, but he wasn't that
he
bad.
wasn't shooting himself in the foot. He was at least he was doing things that were bad, maybe for the state, but at least good for him politically. Now he's not doing anything good at all. Like he was doing
Exactly.
stuff like, oh, we want to keep these businesses open. We don't want these businesses to suffer because of the Democrats and they're trying to politicize COVID. And then he goes around and starts politicizing everything that exists on Earth and
Yeah, and he just
scaring
he
away anybody that works and anybody that votes against him. And it's just making it an unlivable hellscape.
yeah, and he's literally shooting himself in the foot. It's like this is an implosion. Like he's never going to be able to bounce back from that. He's never going to be able to run for president.
I can't imagine how he would be able to. Yeah.
It's
I
like
still think Republicans' next chance is Glenn Youngkin. I've been saying it for a while. He's smart to stay out of this
oh,
primary.
exactly. Yeah, of course. This primary is just this is all about name ID primary because Trump is going to probably win the nomination and then he's probably going to lose. But the reality is these other candidates, your job was to get your name ID and go toe to toe for Trump. Because when he's lose, then guess what the next election cycle is going to be about? It's like, hey, he took on Trump last time and he may
So
have lost, but maybe we need to go his direction because Trump lost. And so that's what this primary was supposed to be about, to see who's the
yeah,
up and coming Republicans. And honestly, I I thought Nikki Haley was probably I was scared of her the most of all of them.
she's
Honestly,
really
because
really underwhelmed. Like even having low expectations against Trump, like she's not on a good campaign even slightly.
yeah, she
Like she's
doesn't run
not
a
even
good
the
campaign.
best candidate from South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because her and Scott are, like right there with each other. I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yes, I mean Tim Scott. I mean, I don't know. He has no charisma in my opinion. So he's
not
not gonna
really.
go
No,
there.
he's just doing
No,
the Marco Rubio thing where he just tweets Bible verses all the time. And then,
yeah, that's not gonna work on a national stage. Like
yeah,
people are gonna look at you like, what are you doing, bro? I go to church on Sunday, not Monday through Saturday. Like, what are you doing? Okay, so
he's
he's
just
going
virtue
to.
signaling. He's just woke.
It's like
These
that's not.
These Republicans are woke too. They just be tweeting Bible verses and stuff and being like,
Yeah, have those guys. Are probably have
"I'm
those
such
guys.
a good Christian."
I'm
I
not
know
gonna say what I'm gonna say, but let's
you
just say
should
that the most Christians of the Republican parties are usually
not really. They're
not
cultural Christians.
exactly.
They don't live out their principles. Otherwise, they wouldn't vote for the goddamn Republican Party who wants people to starve on the streets, or at least is ambivalent, doesn't care.
At the very least.
Yeah.
Hutchinson has no shot. Soros has no shot. I mean, Miami Dade. Okay, so here's what I got to say about this because I feel like he's from Florida, so I should say something
As
about
far as if
Soros.
he ran for governor, maybe 2028, he could have been something. Maybe he still will. Maybe he's making a name for himself, at least. But he's not going to,
I
obviously, now.
I don't like when I have mayors running. I mean, I didn't like when Pete Buttigieg ran, and so I definitely don't like it with these other guys
Yeah.
from Florida running. So
I
I
mean, I
mean,
kind of liked Pete Buttigieg's personality and stuff, but it's just such a jump to be governing
yeah,
80,000 people and then being like, yeah, I can cover 230, 300 million people.
yeah. Well,
Like,
the world. It's like
eventually, even more, yeah.
yeah, it's like
You
bro,
know,
you're trying to control the world. Like no, that's a big jump. Sorry. So I don't buy it. Christie Scott Haley. This is just a terrible field. Pence. It's like I don't know why Pence thought he would ever become president,
I
and
don't know.
that's the danger of becoming a vice president
I
and
think it's
running
really
against.
like, what else are you going to do?
That's true. That's very very true.
He was already governor of Indiana, so he might as well do something else. Maybe he probably was like, God talked to me. He told me it's my shot.
It's my time.
It's like George Bush.
Yeah, it's my time. Like, go ahead, bro. Do your thing.
He really is like a relic of the Bush era. Like, he's such
Yeah,
a Reaganite Republican.
he just doesn't have a personality. Like
True.
being president is about personality. If you're a Bible thumper, be a Bible thumper, but at least be all about it. You know what I mean? It's like
Kind of is, though.
he has this weird stance. Like, know what it is? It's just like I don't want to use those words because that's not really politically correct. He
Don't
doesn't
be
have like
racist.
he doesn't have the mojo. He
He
doesn't have
ain't
the
got the juice.
yeah. He don't got the juice. That's what that's what it's saying. It's like when I look at him, it's like he looks like the. Okay, let me not say that either. He looks like the guy that I wouldn't want to go in a fight with. It's like if I'm about to get in a fight in a brawl, I'm not calling you. Like just stay in the back.
Oh, you don't want him to back you up, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's
I
like yeah.
thought that you're implying like you wouldn't want to fight him. I'm like, he doesn't seem like he could do that much damage. He
No, no,
probably
no. It just doesn't seem like that guy. Like it's like dude, you yeah. Like Rama.
Ramaswamy.
I started
You
messing
were
your
doing
name.
so good.
Yes, I was. Raman
Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy. Thank you.
There you go.
Uh, he looked like the side like guy. Like okay, yeah. If I get into it, yeah. All right, cool. Trump looks like that guy. Barack Obama has that. Like it's
They got the
he
juice.
doesn't look. Huh?
They got the juice.
They got
They
the
got a
juice.
fire burning behind
They
their
got
eyes
fire.
too.
Like even DeSantis, fake juice looks like he has juice.
He
Even
got
though
like
I know.
half a tank of juice.
Hmm?
So he got like half a tank of juice.
Yeah, it's fake juice. It's like, bro, you're not about that life. And it's like, because everything he does is just a copycat of Trump, and you can never copy somebody. It's
No,
like anytime you see someone's copying someone, it's always like something. What's wrong with that person? There's something off with their because you can't copy people. It's
yeah, it's
like
not the algorithm that itself that is what's successful. It's the person that's just perfectly
exactly,
fitting for the algorithm. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
Obama is truly Obama. There's no
hmm
other Obamas. Trump, there is no other Trump.
no,
DeSantis can't be Trump. DeSantis could have been DeSantis and done it pretty well. He could have done his own style, made up his own way of criticizing other Republicans. He's just trying to copy Trump, and you just cannot. It's not the things that Trump did; it's the fact
yeah,
that it was Trump.
yeah,
No other person that could have done Trump's exact thing and been as successful. It's just not how it works. You
it
just have
doesn't.
to truly be authentic and be yourself, even if yourself is like fake. If it's at least your style that you've been doing for 30 years, like Trump has been doing, like you've mastered your own craft. You
Yeah,
can't be.
you master yourself.
DeSantis mastered his own craft up to getting to the governorship, and then now he's changing up the game, and now he's trying other strategies. No, you got to stick with the script, bro. You can't just follow
Yeah,
Trump because he's the guy that won.
yeah, you got to be who you are. And the thing is, he won Florida because he was following Trump's script for
Kind
the
of.
governor of Florida.
Yeah.
Now you're on the same stage as the man you're trying to copy.
True.
So now it's like, yeah, why don't we just pick the guy that you're trying to be like?
Yeah.
It's like that's what,
You
and he's
definitely
like,
can't compete against the guy you're trying to be like and expect to do better than him. Like,
yeah, it's like, dude, like that's why I said I think Christie has the best shot of all these people
yeah.
because he's the only one that can take him on toe for toe.
And Christie was Trump before Trump, and
Yes, exactly.
Christie was known for being aggressive in debates and being confrontational and being all those sort of things. That then the thing that got him was his staffers and all of his advisors in 2016 told him, "Yo, tone it down, homie. You want to appeal to more people. Don't be yourself. Be somebody else." So then
Yep.
Trump comes in and he's all Trump. And he's just
Yeah.
shooting from the hip, and he's just saying whatever's on the top of his head. And Chris Christie's trying to play civility politics when that's not
Yeah.
his style of politics at all.
It's
See,
not.
no,
When he went after and tore Marco Rubio, that's when everybody was like, "Oh, whoa!"
yeah,
But at that time, he already lost. Though people
he
were
took
like,
down Rubio.
"You took down Rubio," and before that, he already had lost. But
Yeah,
if you did that earlier, he would have had a shot.
I think
But
so.
so I think that he's the only one that's going to go toe to toe with Trump, and I think it's going to be him, Ramaswamy.
There you go.
There it is. I will get it eventually
I
since
think
it's closed.
Ramaswamy is like the Marco Rubio kind of.
Yeah,
He'll be in the running, but he'll be like a distant third. And
yeah. I think
Christie,
all
I
these
mean,
people
they're
would.
all going to be in the distant second and third. It's probably still going to be Trump 50+%,
All these
Christie
people are going to drop
25.
out. After Iowa, most of these people are going to drop out.
Yeah,
Scott, Haley, Pence, Hutchinson. Well, maybe not Hutchinson, but Scott, Haley, and Pence.
the fact that Hutchinson's in this race at all just shows how dissonant he is from from
Yeah,
how out of touch he is. He's not going to. I don't know.
no, because everything comes down to Iowa for these guys. A lot of these candidates are Iowa candidates. Pence, Haley, Scott, those three are all Iowa candidates. So if Trump blows them out the water, they're all dropping.
Yeah.
Ramaswamy is not an Iowa candidate,
Yeah, he
but he
doesn't have
does
anything to
well.
lose really. That's why I think
Yeah,
Ramaswamy will stick around because he's not currently elected official. He doesn't have a political career already that's at jeopardy. No, he's making his entire name and his entire career by everything he does now. So
yeah,
he's just going to stick it out to literally he has until it socially uh, harms him not to. I don't know.
yeah. I think Christie, Hutchinson, Soros will drop out of Iowa. I don't even know. This Burgum guy will drop out. Her guy's going to drop out. So really, the only people that really will make it out of Iowa, Trump, maybe DeSantis, Ramaswamy, and Christie. And then after New Hampshire, if Christie beats DeSantis, DeSantis dropping out.
I agree.
And then
Like,
it'll be Trump, Ramaswamy, and then Christie. And then that'll go on for like a month or two, and then Trump will eventually just win. But that's who I predict it to go.
you think
But
the Democratic candidates are going to drop out pretty early because neither of
oh,
them are elected, so
split.
maybe they'll
20,
stick it out.
let's see the Democratic. I'm trying to find the latest polls on the Democratic. All right. So Biden's at 63.7, Kennedy's at 13.4, and Williamson's at 5.9. I think the first place is South Carolina. If
Kennedy
Kennedy
might
can do
overperform South Carolina. That's what I think.
second,
I think Kennedy might overperform in South Carolina.
that's all he needs to do is
Yeah.
overperform.
Williamson
Wilson,
will get like 1% of South Carolina, but I think she could do fairly well in New Hampshire.
okay. This one might go a little bit longer. I think this one really is going to hinge on Williams. Not really, because This one's gonna go as Biden goes. Honestly, if Biden starts to slip up anytime in office next year,
Yeah, think anything could shift.
it's gonna shift this 100%. And I think that honestly, people don't understand that this Biden thing is gonna be a day-to-day thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Just
I
don't
think
see. I don't know if it can hold up for an election, the whole entire presidential election cycle. I
the
see what they're
second
doing though. Hmm?
I was just gonna say the second that it's like just so blatantly obvious that it is only gonna harm the party by keeping him around, which is already pushing that level. They're
Yeah,
gonna Gavin Newsom. They're gonna swoop him in. Joe
I,
Biden. They'll
but
convince Biden like you are going to hurt your name and hurt your cause if you continue to run, and like it's the best thing for the country for you to peacefully transition and allow them all to run. And then Kamala Harris would run against Gavin Newsom, and Gavin Newsom would beat her 70-30 or something like that. Like
yeah, she'll lose pretty bad to him.
it,
What's the first primary for the Democrats?
what was that?
What's the first primary?
I don't know.
Uh, Let me see. The first primary is going to tell you everything you need to know. Jesus, he's so old.
I
What,
mean,
69?
hmm?
He's 69 years old.
Oh, Kennedy?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're all old. Even he's the youngest of the Democratic candidates right now.
I know. She's from Texas. He's I don't know. I mean, it'd be weird for him to win, but
It's not going to be Kennedy or Williamson. There's no chance.
yeah, there's
It'll
no
be
chance.
Biden
But
unless Biden doesn't run.
there's a chance that these Dean Phillips thinking about running and Joe
Yeah.
Manchin.
Joe Manchin is the second or third most unpopular senator in the United States, so he won't.
Yeah,
He won't. He's no chance. But Dean
and
Phillips is
Phillips.
kind of like a wild card. He could just completely never make the news, or he could win it all. I don't know. It's possible. He's young. He's charismatic. He's moderate enough. He's not establishment enough.
Yeah,
So he's got at least like 3/4 of the juice. I won't say he got the juice, but he got like 3/4 of can.
yeah. I think that he has the juice. I think Gavin Newsom should run. I mean, honestly, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie to you. If I'm
it's
the,
up
if
to him.
but I think they're waiting and seeing what happens in the Republican primary. If they see Trump,
Yeah.
if they see Trump kills Iowa and they see Trump kill New Hampshire, they'll they won't run Gavin Newsom.
Which I don't. Which I agree. I agree with you. I don't think it necessarily makes sense. Like I think Newsom would just blow out Trump too, but
Yeah,
it's not worth shaking everything up to get rid of Biden for the
yeah,
donors because makes it look like they're giving in to the criticisms that Biden can't handle it and that he's been incompetent, yada yada. So it's not worth shaking it up if
yeah,
Biden is still going against Trump because Biden blew Trump out. I'm not gonna lie. They talk about how it was a close election, but Biden had 7 million more votes.
yeah,
That's a lot. That's like the size of New Jersey. I don't know. Some state with 7 million. That's a lot of people that voted for Biden over Trump. That's a lot of people.
yeah.
And if we were a democratic country, that would be considered blowouts. But
Exactly. Well, we're gonna go back to the Electoral College. So, I mean, stay tuned. That's one of those things that Portland's going to take everything, but let's stay tuned and see what happens on
yeah,
that one. So I
it,
think we got to wrap up because it's
yeah,
like a
we gotta
minute.
wrap it up.
Okay. Well, let's go to the football thing real quick. I know
Okay.
you guys are not football fans, but I just wanted to. You guys did go to college. Well, some people didn't. Um, we will. So I'm going to quickly go through this, but so you guys don't know, football fans, that there's conference realignment happening. And quickly, how this works is each school, every athletic program is get funded by the football program usually. and it funds the whole athletic department for a university or college. So now TV companies like ESPN, Fox are paying absorbent amount of money to get these teams to play on their network. Long story short, a lot of these teams are now kind of fighting for position to get these TV deals. So now, so what's been happening is the Pac-12, which is one of those conferences that are fighting for TV deals, is pretty much dissolved. And the reason why is because the other teams that were in it decided to go to other conferences because that's about 70 to $100 million they're going to each school. And so Pac-12 is dissolved, and now we have a couple of conferences thinking about possibly dissolving to go after this TV money. The reason why I think this is so relevant is because what's happening in our universities and academic system is becoming more and more, how can you say this, more like a capitalist run universe, capitalist run education system
For
than
profit.
actually become a more progressive and let's think about the students, let's make everything whole. One of the proposals, which I thought was crazy, was the Pac-12, and Seth said it earlier. I think we're off screen, but the Pac-12, which is conference majority dominating the West Coast, they were talking about joining a league just for the TV deal, a league that has predominantly all the way over to the Southeastern Conference or Southeast of America, like Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, and there's only four teams left in the Pac-12. And they're essentially suggesting that their student athletes go from California to Florida every weekend through the football season. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, how ridiculous is it that you're going to ask college students to go from California to Florida every weekend and think they're going to be studying?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not going to happen. Like, I've done that. I've done that when I was in San Diego for a couple of months, and I would fly back to Florida. You need a week to recover. It's not even like a normal. That's not a normal flight because you're flipping through time zones, and it
Yeah.
takes time to recover to those time zones.
The jet
And
lag.
yeah, and I thought that would be. I thought it was interesting to tell you guys to stay up on that. Stay up on the college realignment because those have serious implications. A lot of a lot of schools are switching. A lot of students are going to different locations, and it's all because of greed and it's all because of capitalism. And we have to be mindful how things like that affect us as a whole, because we're asking these students, this next generation of students, to do some crazy lifestyles that one is not putting their education on focus, and there two, it's not really taking care of you know the economic needs of those students. They're
Yeah.
just being tossed around, moved around, left and right like pawns.
Can't
And I
imagine
thought that
that's good for their like body, their skills on the court either, or the field, whatever.
no,
Having to travel all the time. That's kind of why they do conferences in general, is because you can just sort of shift over to the other side of the state, someone else in the same conference as you. That makes a lot of sense instead of flying to Hawaii, flying to Minnesota every other day. Like,
yeah,
they're
fighting
just not
for
acting in the interest of the people that are their actual assets that are actually producing the value of college sports.
no, they're
Yeah,
not.
no.
Well, I thought it was interesting. Well, with that little football news here, uh, we're gonna let you guys go. I don't know, Seth, you have any final words?
No. Wait, when is the debates, like next week or the next week after that? Something like that?
First TV debate. Give me a second. Let me pull it up.
Either way, we're planning on having a
Streaming live,
history
right?
history episode coming up soon with friend of the show, Zach Britt. And if that's not if the debate is next week, we'll do that. We're going to find time to do that. We're also going to try to cover the debates live if we are available to do so, because that's going to be some great content.
Yeah.
And we'll just keep you guys
The
updated.
next
I guess
debate.
we'll do.
The next debate is on August 23rd.
Damn. Yeah.
That's next Wednesday. Get my math right? Is that next Wednesday?
Oh, let me look. Don't ask Seth to check math. I'm not the
I'm
person to
gonna
check.
put my calendar. Yep,
Oh,
that
you're
is
right.
next
You're right.
Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
So next Wednesday, guys, we will be going live, not on Tuesday.
If I'm
And
working Wednesday night, it's possible. And we'll
oh,
just cover the debate on Thursday.
we'll cover it on Thursday. Okay,
Either way,
cool. Either way, you're gonna get our feedback, and
whether it's live or not.
we're gonna rate these candidates.
Yeah, at least, yeah, we're on the debate performance, on overall candidacy, all that sort
Yeah,
of stuff. Maybe try to
cool.
guess cabinet positions or something, even though Trump's not going to win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we'll let you go.
All
See you
right.
next week.
Everybody have a great week. Thank you for another week of Imagine